Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Andrew Davis. Obviously, I got some of my friends here, some people that I'm sort of hanging out for the first time are joining, I guess, this Comic Hangout. If you would like to join us, hit me up in my DMs and we'll see if we can get you on. If not, you can hit around, watch, and chill out with all of us. Obviously, I got my friend Chris from Laughing Rogue. I got Paul that is coming out for the first time. I'm not sure Paul's going to be back on a more intimate level at some point. And then I got Gage,
Rare.
the Wolf, who I haven't seen in a while. So, what's up, guys?
How's it going?
Not
Keeping busy.
not too much, man. Just hanging out.
Now, obviously, I don't know Paul, so I figured we should introduce ourselves. I'm not going to introduce myself because everybody should know who I am. My name is Raven Gregory. Nice to meet all of you.
Me next?
Yeah,
Or
sure.
Chris? My
Go
name is
ahead,
Paul
Paul.
Gomez. I'm a brand new writer and creator of comics. I put out 3 comics in the past 8 months, and I'm just getting into the business, learning the ropes, and trying to figure out what I can.
3 and 8, man. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That is a
So,
lot.
so what books you got, Paul?
The first one that I released was called PTSD. It's a passion project of mine. It's a real hard-hitting kind of story. The second book that I released is Bushibu Circus Mysteries, issue 1. The third one that I released is called Cryptic Haze, and that's kind of a thrill ride kind of thing, kind of my homage to Batman's The Killing Joke. And I'm just about to release Bushibu Circus Mysteries, issue 2, starting July 30th.
There it is. Modern take on the monkey's paw.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to check that one out.
Okay.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sure
Big
we're
Gage.
going to talk about something. Eventually, Paul, you and me, and I'm going to do a lot more research.
Yeah.
Again, this is more free-flowing, more,
Right.
everybody's hanging out, chilling out, and obviously people can talk about whatever they want. But what do you got, Chris, going on?
Oh man, I got a ton of stuff going on. I got interviews coming up. I got RPG shows we do. I'm on one of those. We're going to the Savannah Comic Con down in Georgia coming up this weekend. I'm driving down 12 hours, baby. But we got the Slaughterville Book 2. We got Slaughterville 3 coming, still up for pre-order. We got Gone Hunting coming out with Big Sexy Outdoors. Oh man, we're just going busy. And Scene of the Crime, but that's 5 years in the making. I've been working on that game.
And who's coming on? Who's coming on to your show, Chris?
Oh, yeah. This Wednesday we have Chris Birch from Modifius Entertainment. They did Fallout RPG, Elder Scrolls RPG, and then this Friday we actually have Nicholas Brendan coming on from Buffy fame. So if you like Xander and Buffy and you want to come out, hang out, be respectful because it's family friendly. When I do it there, it's family friendly. When it's here, I'm like, fuck it all, but that's a whole different.
This show is very family friendly. You can tell from my last interview, we were absolutely family friendly.
Yeah, no. My Friday one is family friendly. I not this one. Not this one.
If anybody saw my interview with Raven Gregory, legitimately 20 minutes ago, it ended.
Yeah.
You would know it was absolutely family friendly. I mean, the amount of fuck yous to Pat Shand in that interview, oh, absolutely family friendly to the T.
What that means is just love. You want to love somebody else. That's what that means.
They're having an affair. Just nobody knows it. It's a very secret one. Raven and Pat are really good friends in life, in case you didn't know. And they're both from Zenoscope, and you could tell, and it's great. And Pat Chan's doing fantastic. He's in San Diego right now, and he just got $75,000 on his Kickstarter.
Wow.
Thursday.
Damn, that's a big time, man.
And then what about you, Gage? What do you got going on? Because you haven't been here in a hot minute.
Well, and I finished Godslayers 1, and I finished fulfillment on that, and I'm working on Godslayers episode 2. But I got the summers really bad, man, and it's slowing down my workflow. So, but I'm also looking to start a second title, and so I'm tackling 2 titles at once. And I'm not super ready to promote that one yet. I'm still looking to get some more art and stuff in before I start working it through our webpage and talking about it too much.
And Gage, I'm going to ask you a question. How do you feel about Greg Poe?
How do I feel about what?
Greg Bo.
I love Greg Bo Watson.
He's a little secret, very, very, very good artist. Is how I like.
Yeah, he did an episode for cover for Godslayers 1, and so I'm still like looking at a couple of covers for Godslayers 2 so far. So.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that I got my panel introduced, we can all go home now. So thanks guys for coming. No, no. Obviously, I made an announcement earlier. I am launching a Substack. I just want to make that crystal clear before we dive into anything else. And I promise I won't promote too hard. Teaching comic book investing. So the full class will be out on October 5th. We are over 25% done. We're going to be at 50% done by Friday. And what I mean by we is I mean me. I just like to put a W instead of an M. But I am going to be releasing it on Substack, on Locals, and a few other places on a monthly subscription level, along with some articles and some other stuff. And moving forward, as I get more and more classes done, you guys who subscribe to the Substack and the Locals will actually get that content first. And you will get a bunch of other bonuses that you won't get if you just buy the class straight up on Udemy all at once. So it is a way how to finance it. It's also a way how to get other content and get your content first. But I figured since I ran a Kickstarter, but I haven't done a comic, I'm curious because the three of you have done things that I haven't. And right now, Kickstarter is really interesting where there's a lot of people who are copying projects on Kickstarter and they're getting caught. But I'm curious how you guys feel about that because I don't think somebody wants to take my podcast and I think they would get relatively found out quickly. But how do you guys feel about that? Because you have comic projects and I don't.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, Kickstarter is really the biggest name out there. I mean, if you're going to look at the other ones, Indiegogo, Zoop, and then maybe even Crowdfunder, it's kind of hard to jump into a different one and hope that all your fans are going to follow you from that first one to the other one. And I started with Kickstarter mainly because most of my friends were in it. So it's had a lot of problems lately, especially with, people trying to copy the things. A lot of people going in there and reporting projects, and also, with them going to their financials change, I guess you will, the cryptocurrency recently was always a big question mark, but they pretty much stayed strong. So I feel like I'm comfortable here. And I've looked into the other three formats that I mentioned, and it's kind of a little more difficult for me to change right now. But I mean, later on, I definitely think I might cross promote, do more than one platform at a time.
So I'm actually kind of curious, like what you mean by copying. Like, are they reproducing the books? Are they just sharing the PDFs? What are they doing to copy?
Yeah. And you guys can correct me because I think you guys know what I'm talking about. What's going on is somebody takes Travis Gibb is a good example of that. Where what happened with Travis is somebody took his Cthulhu book and they were down in Mexico and they basically copied the entire thing. I think they took Travis's name off of it and then they said it was theirs. And they said, hey, I got the books, and they copied it, copy-pasted, had all the same rewards. Maybe they took off a signing, and if the project got funded and it got approved and Kickstarter released the funds, that person would have just walked away with the funds. And so that's what's going on, and there's been at least 30 of them, I think, this year, if not more. And so it's a real issue because, I mean, on a legal level, I don't know what grounds Travis has. And I don't think Travis is going to mind me saying it because the project was reported. But even on I guess, because I don't want somebody taking my Kickstarters, words and copying it and playing it off as my name. You know what I mean? And so that's where I get really freaked out as somebody ransomed for this podcast. And so that's kind of what happened. And I don't know if I'm missing something, Paul. You know what I'm talking about. Chris, you know what I'm talking about too, right?
I do.
Yeah.
If I'm missing something, feel free to add. But I'm sort of freaked out about it a little bit as a creator.
I got
really questions.
I got to admit, I am a little unstable about it because it is happening. But I think one of the main reasons that they are getting caught is that the creators are interacting with their customers as much.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you got someone as good as Travis Gibbs, he's on there with live and he's talking to their customers and he's making sure that they're going to his website. Not only that, but he posts like his updates and whatnot. And I think that's what catches most of these people. I don't think there's really been a big one that's gotten through. Haven't heard of any that actually have gotten away with it. So it really doesn't bother me. I know whenever I interact with my people, and again, I'm brand new, but I've been always taught and told, if you're going to run a Kickstarter, make sure you're doing good updates, make sure you're
Yeah.
talking to your customers. And as long as that's happening, I don't think anyone can really copy mine as long as I'm interacting with my customers.
Yeah.
No. I mean, sorry, what were you saying, Chris?
No, please.
No. I speak enough. So,
But it's not just comics. It's a lot of different industries, and all they do is they copy and paste everything in the campaign. So it doesn't matter if it's a comic book. Doesn't matter if it's I think one of them was a set of tweezers, for God's sakes. Okay, and they made 17 grand on those tweezers. All right, before it was caught. Now it was caught and killed, which it should be, as the thieves should be. Am I advocating for the death of the thieves? Yes, yes, I am. And I think, how do I say? I think Kickstarter isn't doing enough to catch these kinds of things ahead of time. If you're selling a product with a similar or even exact title, that should be a red flag. Kickstarter catches that in a second. I mean, come on, I've written databases. I do programming. Okay, I've written databases and SQL work where you can catch that stuff. It's not rocket science.
But having said that, you got to admit that Kickstarter's really been hands off just about on everything. Whenever that you have a problem, they're not exactly there jumping to the gun. So I mean, yeah, it is a problem. But the thing about it is, they are still one of the largest, if not the largest, platform out there. To just abandon Kickstarter is kind of like abandoning the big two at the moment. You don't want to abandon Marvel and DC because they do hold up the LCSs in the comic book world, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like when I had it on Indiegogo, the people on Kickstarter said, we're not going to go over there. We want to stick here because this is what we know.
Right.
So unfortunately, if that's where your audience is, that's where you have to be. And unless you have a boost.
I can't say anything about that because I only do Kickstarter and not Indiegogo. So
yes,
I understand where they're coming from. Kickstarter works for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone's getting scammed on everything now. I mean, you get email scams. So if they're working to catch it, then, I mean, what can you ask for?
So it's interesting, right? Because this is where I'm having problems with Kickstarter. Kickstarter has been massively hands-off with everything.
Right.
For everything. I mean, fulfillment. It used to be that you didn't have to click that little box, right? It says you might not get your rewards. My first Kickstarter that I backed, person raised $17,000. It's Drew Ford. I got no problem saying it. Everybody knows who Drew Ford is in the business. If you don't know who Drew Ford is, just Google the name, it'll pop up. Book did like $17,000, right? We're supposed to get all these stretch goals. We didn't get any stretch goals. He was 22 months late. Supposed to be a birthday gift for myself. Spent $60. At least the books were signed. I didn't come back to Kickstarter for 3 years because of that. That's my first experience. He did nobody a favor. He cost the three of you and a bunch of other people a boatload of money. So, and Kickstarter was like, well, we got nothing for you. We can't do anything. And then this is where it comes back to me where I'm now waiting on 6 books that are overdue. And this is where I'm having a problem is I'm like, where are my books? And look, one of them is getting resolved and there was an issue and, the person had their feet tied and they couldn't say anything. If they said what they needed to say, then there would have been no anger, right?
Right.
But that's a different person. That's a different circumstance. But that still leaves 5 books where I have problems. And Kickstarter's like, we're not going to do anything about it. And so I've actually lost a lot of faith in the platform. And I'm being very, very picky And so this is why it's getting to the point with me where I'm not abandoning Kickstarter, but I'm definitely saying, look, I'm having problems here on multiple levels. And somebody like Travis is going to get me my book. Somebody like Tom Hutchinson is going to get me my book. Hopefully, I don't know you, Paul, but I would hope, and from what I've seen of you, you're going to get me my book. And we're not talking a month late. We're talking like 6 months late.
Right.
Not you. Same thing with Chris. But that's where these people are. They're 6, 7, 8 months late, but they're also running other campaigns and doing 20,000. And that's what is irritating me, and that's why I've lost faith. And this is just another crypto side. Actually, kind of restores faith to me because I'm a crypto advocate.
So, addressing the first problem, might be getting your books, might not be getting your books, and the fact that Kickstarter is so hands off, it kind of is a little cautionary that you tell people, hey, look at the artist before and his projects before investing in him. Whenever I talk about my projects, I've done 3 projects in the past 8 months. My first one's completely fulfilled except for one, and that's only because I haven't got the survey back with the address. And I've emailed this gentleman like 6 or 7 times. But having said that, my second one's been fulfilled about 90%, and my third one's fulfilled about 75%. And the only reason it's 75% is because I'm waiting on signatures from one of my cover artists to come back and then to go out again. But I tell people, if you're going to invest in a book, look at the books that you're investing in and what they've done prior to that. Check out the updates and see how they are. All of these platforms do have a level of help and that Kickstarter doesn't. One of the things I'd like to bring up, and I don't know what the boundaries on this show are.
Oh,
but
you can say whatever you want. Let me rephrase. Do you understand the concept called TV ready?
Yeah.
That's where we draw the line.
So,
you could say any idea. You can't say the F word or the N word.
All right, no problem.
You
So,
can say fuck.
like
You can say the other F word.
Eric July, he's doing that ISOM book, and he's not using a platform. He's doing it all by himself. Can you put that trust into him? Well, a lot of people have, because he's up to $3 million, and that's kind of, to me, it's a little crazy. But again,
talk about that. Me and Raven spoke about that a little while ago, so that's fair to talk about.
And I'm kind of on his side, but I tell people my view is simply this: I don't know what the book is going to be about. You've only seen 3 or 4 pages about it. Would I invest $35 into a book that an artist that's never done a comic before? Right now, these people who are putting $3 million into it are buying the hype. I do wish him well, but I want to wait and see if that book's any good before I start investing that money.
Paul, do me a favor. Read the 2 words that are not my name.
The Investor?
Yeah. What do you know about me?
I've really just seen about 3 of your shows, and that's about it.
So I'm gonna go into a little bit about me, because this plays right into your point. Chris and Gage know a little bit about me, and this is not a dig or anything. Hopefully, you're not gonna take this, but I invest in comic books, right?
Right.
So what you're talking about is that I'm not an investor in Eric July, because I haven't seen anything of that book that's like, what is this book about? How can I even say, am I going to like this story?
Right.
And that's my thing, is that I need more to say, is this for me? Is this not for me? Even if he said, because saying this is the anti-woke book is not enough. That doesn't entice me. If you say, hey, this is a book about a boy loving a girl and the girl gets killed and then the boy's out for revenge, I now have a picture of what the hell we're going to read, right? So that's kind of my thing. So, and I completely agree. And this is what me and Raven were speaking about. What were you going to say, Chris? Sorry, Chris.
No. It's what I do when I want to remember. I was looking at the book. Okay, I was looking at the campaign, whatever you want to call it, and a lot of the purchases, and I'm going to say a lot of it is like there's $30 for a poster, and there's 800 of those sold. 800 $30 posters. No, I'm lying. There's another poster that sold almost 1,300 copies for $30. So it's $100 for some trading cards.
Yeah.
I make cards for a living, man. It's not that much.
Now, I mean, as far as investing in this, and I've talked to at least one person that was like, but isn't going to be worth money? And I said,
No.
sure. If you got into that first or second tier that sold out of that one or two covers, those might have been worth money because they limited it. But if they're not limiting it, it's just like Spawn 1 or any of the Image comics that came out. They made so many of it, it's not worth it. So
Yeah.
if you wanted to invest in it, the day to invest in it was that first day that they didn't have anything sold out. But at this point, I don't think anything's going to be worth it because they're going to mass produce so much.
I'm gonna ask a question. Why is this book worth money?
The hype.
This book's worth
That's all.
money. It's Mike the Pathful, and it's limited to 250 copies. That's why this book's worth money. It has a limit.
Right.
And so there you go. And also, it's an indie book. So an
Yeah.
indie book that follows what is known as the Zenoscope rule, because it's Raven Gregory's book.
Right.
And I love that cover. It's not for sale, so don't ask. But when you have a limited print run, books that are limited for the most part tend to go up if the series is good. But and I'm going to be very honest. I mean, my take on the book, and maybe I'm jaded, is this series could be the greatest series ever, and the entire thing could be, every book from this could be worth real money, or it's the idea that if it's limited and the series is the greatest thing ever, and it gets licensed, and then it gets a Netflix show, and then it gets this, that, and this. There you go. I mean, I just picked up a limited 600 print run by Warren Lau. That book's worth money because there's only 600 copies, and it's Gun Honey. Gun Honey is hot right now.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, the cover is beautiful. I'm probably gonna keep it. My mom's gonna kill me. I said, Mom, don't worry, I'm gonna sell it. Crossing my fingers behind my back while drinking a beer with her. But all jokes aside, the book is worth money because it is limited, and so that's how I feel. But I think there's a lot of hype. I think it's an FOMO, much like the author who just did 50 million. I think it's the exact same thing. I really do.
Now, I mean, he did good by going to get Marvel artists to draw it, and the pages that he shows are nice, but does he have an editor? Is his story really that good? Even though there's going to be that many that are going to be out there, it's one of those things. But I mean, we were talking about platforms, and whenever he's on that platform that is his, can you really trust him? I mean, like I said, $30 million worth of trust is in there right now.
But also, it's the idea that how long is this going to take? I mean, I'll throw another story. So I backed Santine and Jackson Stone's campaign. Santine's a friend. I've hung out with Santine. There's pictures of me and her hanging out in D.C. and some interesting conversations ensued. And she's like, she was the queen of D&D. Dungeons and Dragons. Want to make that crystal clear. If you look up Santine Phoenix's name, you'll understand why I had to distinguish that. But yeah. I'm in a fun mood, guys. I'm in a fun mood. It's partially this, it's partially the rest of my day. But the idea is that campaign is a disaster, and it's 350,000 plus. And whenever you start approaching over 100,000, I mean, it's another year and a half. Whenever they say they're going to deliver historically, because when you have that much money, you have that much inventory. I mean, it's usually an insanely difficult process.
Right.
So I don't know, man. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Gage?
I have no idea, man. I think that a lot of that has to do with that they bring in the fan base. If you've got the fan base, then limiting your book is good because you've got more fans than you have books, and it increases. I mean, the fan base is everything. Like, isn't that how Travis Gibb? Isn't that how he copied his Kickstarter? His fan base caught it because they were looking for it, right? Building the fan base on Kickstarter is going to get you the money, and it's going to get you the protection of your fans too, to some degree. Yeah. I mean, bringing that fan base is a big deal.
No, it's the name of the game is building the fan base, because if you don't have that, then you're really not going to go anywhere. Me being brand new, I don't have a fan base, but I know they've been building up because every comic that I put out has those numbers that are going up from basically zero on to where I'm at now, which is decent.
And everyone I know is dealing with the fact that bigger fan base is on Kickstarter. Like IGG, like they're not pulling in as much on their Indiegogos as they are on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So to even talk about that, because one of the things that I find interesting about Eric July is that he, to me, came, and the reason why he can do what he did, and even Brandon Sanderson, I want to say, is his name, who's the author. Those two people have big fan bases off
Exactly. They
Kickstarter.
brought
I
in
mean,
like millions of people who wanted
Yeah.
to see their product.
Keanu Reeves is
Again, I
the
always
same.
go back to the Avatar: The Last Airbender role-playing game. Like they put it on there, and they made 11 million or some crazy
Mhm.
amount like that off of it. And they never expected that. They brought the fan base.
So this is where it goes. I mean, I was actually looking at Jessica Nigeri's Instagram. Oddly enough, she only has a 3%, engagement rate on her Kickstarter, not Kickstarter, her Instagram. But her post valuation is about at $4,400 a post, is what it
Wow.
brings and what it's worth. So if you actually have her and hire her as an influencer, estimated value across everything, you need to hire her under $4,400, essentially. She's not worth anything more than that right now per post. And so I'm very interested. I didn't look up Eric July,
Mm.
but it's easy enough to look up. But that's, I think, that's one way how to evaluate all this and all their fans. But I'm wondering what's going to happen if this book sucks. Because
Yeah.
that's really the question, is that because you could raise as much money as you want. And this is where it goes with you, Paul, Gage, and Chris, is that people are coming back to you. You don't have the corporate machine per se behind you, and you don't have a big name. You don't have 135,000 people on Twitter following you, and yet you're growing, which means
Mhm.
that you're producing a quality product.
And here's the thing too. A lot of people are saying it's good for things like this to happen, like with Keanu Reeves, with Berserker, and books like this, because they're saying, oh, it's bringing people to indie comics. It's bringing people to this platform, and I'm going to say no, it's not. It's bringing people that like those personalities. I promise you, probably 90% of them are never going to buy another book unless it's by that person.
I
I'll
think
take
it's
10%.
yeah, I'll take
I mean,
10%.
when they're pulling in $11 million, I'll take 10% that happen across mine and buy it.
I'll take 1%. I mean, 1%.
I'm
But I
just
mean,
saying.
having said that, I think it's a
I
double-edged
agree with
sword.
you, but I mean, if they're bringing $11 million to the platform and 1% of those people happen across my book and buy it, welcome to the platform.
I think it's a double-edged sword. Whenever you say that they're only coming in here for those people, they might stick around and see who else is there. Wesley Snipes having a comic book out there right now. Eric July having a comic book out there right now. That's a lot of people that are looking at
And
these platforms.
when you open up that front page of Kickstarter, it's going to show theirs, but it's going to show other books too.
And
I mean,
it can be a good
So
thing and it can be a bad thing. It really depends on
that's yeah. Continue, sorry, Paul.
how these people fulfill, and as long as they're bringing a product that's worth it, they'll keep some people coming back.
So this is my question on that, though, because look, I'm a huge Zenoscope fan. It's no secret that I love Zenoscope. I had Joe Brush on. I've had Ralph on a few times. I just had Raven on. I'm gonna have Pat Shan on in a little bit. I'm having Chris Lara on. If you don't know who Chris Lara is, she is a beast. And she her artwork is, it looks a certain way and it's damn good. And beyond talented. And if you get it for a cover, do it now, is all I'm gonna say. But one of the things that I think is really interesting is that Zenoscope's a big company, and I think when they're on Kickstarter, that's good. And so I'm very torn on this, because I think Wesley Snipes and that book, I mean, I've said it, and I said it openly, not that long ago, like literally 2.5 hours ago at this point with Raven. And I said, look, that's an average book, though.
Yeah.
So this is where it's becoming, and I said it's like alcohol. Stone Cold Steve Austin has a beer right now out. I enjoy the beer. It's a cool beer. Is it an average IPA? Yeah. Is it fun to drink it on this show? Yeah, because it's Stone Cold Steve Austin's beer. George Clooney has an alcohol. Remy has an alcohol. All these top people have alcohols out there, and it's celebrity, and it's like a brand. And so that Wesley Snipes book by Adam Lawson, and nothing against it, it's not a bad book, but it's nothing special. And I think that's what Berserk is. I think that's what some of this is. And so it raises questions, is that what are we really doing? And I think it's a fad. I think it's a fad. I don't think it's a trend. I think it's a fad, and I think it's going to fade out because I think people are going to be like, man, I spent $50 for a book that should have been $30.
Now, would you? Okay, let's go back to the IPA thing. Would you buy that if it didn't have Austin's name on it?
Probably not.
That's what I'm getting.
So I can't really say anything because I came to
say those
Kickstarter
1% are staying, but
right. But I mean, I came to Kickstarter to get Niobe and stuck around, and now I have like comic boxes of comics. So I mean, that's what brought me there. One book brought me there, and now I get other things. I don't know how many people will do the same.
Right, like, but you came for books. You didn't come for personality.
Right, but coming for anything. I mean, I came for a product. Crazy. And I found more of that product. If they're coming to look at a comic book, they're going to find more comic books. Like, I can't see how it's a bad thing.
And like you said, even though it's only going to be a percentage that sticks around and stays and buys them, that's a large number. Whenever you get the number that Keanu Reeves or Eric July are bringing in, if it's just a percentage or two that stick around, that's a good thing. Me personally, I wasn't a big fan of Berserker. Yeah. I wasn't, I've seen the Wesley Snipes pictures and stuff, and I would think that with the money he'd have, you'd expect a little bit better. And with Eric July stuff, like I said, you only see 4 or 5 pages. It's a 100-page book, I believe, or something 96. Like that. 96. So why not put at least 10 great pages out there, 10 pages that could knock you out? If he's got this much money, this much interest, he should be setting the bar. And to me, those pages are average, I would say. I wouldn't say that they'd knock me off my feet. They were definitely good.
And then I got to ask, are those pages done? Like that he's not showing more than those 4. Are they done? Or is it just these are the only ones we had? We got to show them. You know.
So this raises a question. So let me dive a little bit outside of this, and we're going to circle back. So one of the books that what? I'm sorry. I don't know if I missed something. No, but it's getting to what you just mentioned. So I backed the book that was supposed to come out in May, and the guy apparently had some issues with the book, and I guess he's 40% done. And book's concept seems cool and all. It's a graphic novel of 5 issues. He's a friend. He was on my show like twice, and that's why I'm pissed off, because I'm like, man, I want to read your book, right? And so it goes to the point where he only has 40% done. We're in July. The book was supposed to be delivered in May, which means that the book should have been done in March of this year. Technically, it should have been done in January of this year, if we're going to be really honest. But I give people generosity. I should have the book next month, technically. But I don't. I'm not going to get the book until probably June of next year, the way it's going. And so that's where it comes to the idea where if the pages aren't done, how the hell are you going to print it? And that's the issue. I can understand somebody had an issue and the colors had a real family problem, right? And that's why the book got delayed. And now that book is getting taken care of. But yeah, so that's kind of what's going on. What are you showing, Chris?
I say this is the one that you told me about, this guy here before. So again, that's how I found him. Was
that's the book issue. That's the book issue. It's Fever with Ryan Cummings, and this is the problem. I got no problem saying it. Ryan basically did Fever. Fever barely made it, and he did Reina, and Reina's a great book.
Oh yeah.
But I'm saying to myself, you did 16K, and then you did 8,300, and Fever's only 40% done. How the fuck am I supposed to feel as a fan? I feel hurt. I feel hurt, to be very honest. I mean, and I'm biased because I'm like, dude, what the fuck? And then he released an update after I called him out privately on it. I mean, I'm not holding back here anymore because I want to read the book. I'm an advocate because the book is a cyberpunk book like Bang Tango. It's exactly like Bang Tango. It's right up my alley. Bang Tango is one of my favorite books, and I'm like, dude, I know this story, and you're hitting like the core of my love. And like I feel hurt, and that's my problem. This is why I'm losing faith in the platform.
Now, see, this is what I tell people is like, again, whenever you're going to invest in a book, you need to look into the history of these creators. You make sure you know where they're coming from. If
Yeah.
the books are made before the Kickstarter starts, I know my books have been completely made and finished by the time I hit my Kickstarter button. But then again, that was my personal choice whenever I went into it. I know a lot of my friends kind of wait and I have like half of it done before they go, and then usually there's a situation or two. Whenever it
Yep.
comes to making comic books, man, it's all about fixing the problems and making sure that you keep on that track. And a lot of people aren't that way,
All he had to do was let me know on an update.
right?
Legitly, he had to
Right.
click and write 4 sentences. That's why I'm pissed. Because
Right.
if you can't write 4 fucking sentences saying, "Hey, my artist fucking rambling,
Right.
man, I'm working hard, and boy, it was bowling night, and my artist really fucked me in the ass." That's all
Right.
you had to write to me. That's all you had to write to all of us.
Mhm.
All like 67 backers. Because guess what? You know what the magic words on Kickstarter is? I'm sorry, I fucked up. I'm fixing the problem.
Right.
That's
Right.
all you have to say to me. If somebody says that, if I backed your book, Paul, and you were late by 3 weeks and you wrote that to me, I'd be like, bro, shut the fuck up. Just no words,
Right.
right? Like in my eBay business, if I'm a day late, I say, hey man, I'm sorry. My sister just gave birth. I'm sorry. I just saw the baby. I'm getting your book out to you, which is true. My sister just had a baby girl, and I got a book late to the guy. I was like, dude, no worries, man. Like, you are a day late, and you're telling me that you're apologizing. You're willing to take out $3 off shipping. No, dude, don't worry about it. Like, it's, and that's my whole issue is that if I can do that in my eBay business, and you're now 3 months late, and you're not communicating with me,
Mhm.
and you were on my show. It's not like, I freaking gave you a platform. That's the problem that bothers me.
Well, and again, it's the updating, the communication. That's one of the key things that I learned right away. Make sure you're talking to people and letting them know, hey, everyday life happens. Whether it's a delay from your printer, whether it's something that went wrong with maybe your editor or letterer at that point. Because again, some people wait till a certain part to get all that stuff done. I know whenever I hit launch, I don't exactly have my proofs back from my printer, and that takes a little while. Then
Yeah.
whenever you get the proofs, you got to send in your order, and then you got to make sure you have all the covers. You throw all that in with all the extra stuff, and that takes a little while too. But as long as you're talking to people and telling them, hey, this is what's going on. Whenever I started fulfilling my second book, which was Bushibu Circus, I did have a few delays, and I did send out a few extras with handwritten notes to people. Said, hey, this one product didn't come in on time. I had a problem with my blanks that didn't come in on time, and I
Mhm.
said, here's the majority of your order. The rest of your order will be sent out after a few days. But I mean, it's really the communication part. And as long as you're, like I said, looking into who you're buying from, I think that confidence is a little bit more there. If you look at a Kickstarter and you see that they're going to ship with Gemini, because even putting that on your Kickstarter, I tell people, make sure you put a video on there. Make sure you tell them how you're sending your stuff. Make sure you tell them the quality of the pages, because I think that's a big
Mhm.
deal whenever I get a book. And whenever I started making my book, I wanted to make sure that was a big deal too, that the quality of the pages were a lot better than most. But even sending it in Gemini's makes a big deal because a lot of people don't.
Mhm.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I would send my books in Gemini when I ship on eBay. I made sure of that, and I make sure that I'm insured too.
Right.
And I think that that's another thing that's interesting. Where what it is. I mean, look, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I don't have a problem paying for shipping on a book. I have no problem paying for shipping on a book if it comes correct.
Right.
Like I got no problem paying 10, $12. No problem. No problem. Doesn't bother me one way or the other because I don't want you to have to send it to me again and I want it to come perfect. And because I'm not here to play games, my time is very valuable. And if I have to write you a note to tell you that you fucked up my book, not very happy about me writing me a note.
Mhm.
Right.
I don't know.
I
You
agree.
should, Chris or Gage.
Let's say Gage has been quiet. I'm going to let him take this.
Yeah, I want Gage to just speak for like the next 10 minutes, just straight.
I'm okay. I don't know if I
Let's
have
not
10
Gage.
minutes worth
Gage,
of stuff to say.
I've been speaking
I
forever.
have to say though,
So
like
please.
when you were talking earlier about people stealing people's stuff, I thought you meant like, I don't know, like people have asked about the PDFs and stuff like that, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that
Oh.
like in an information period like we're at now, after a couple of months, you can't expect that people haven't seen your PDFs if they want to see them. You know, after
And if
you've
you guys wanna
released
see
it
my
2 or 3
PDF,
months,
please, just let me
someone's
know.
reading your book, and I kind of don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, the way I see it, whenever the PDFs, if they're gonna share it with someone else, hey, that's another
Yep.
reader that I might get into my fan
book
base.
two.
You know that, yeah. So I mean,
Yep.
it doesn't hurt me that much. Besides, whenever PDFs are concerned, they're usually pure profit. I mean, because you don't have to package everything, pay for that physical copy. So if they're sharing it, I'm not advocating for it, but if it happens, it's no sweat off mine.
Here's something I want to know. Okay. And do you charge for separate covers on PDFs? For instance, if you have a cover A and a cover B, are they two separate purchases? Or if I buy your digital bundle, I get
No,
both?
all of them. Yeah.
So to be
I
fair,
know people that do.
I only did the PDF of my main cover. I didn't do
Yeah.
any PDFs of my alternate covers. Like the only way they came was as physical books.
Now I've seen that where a lot of people just put that A cover, and I understand that. I agree with that, but I usually put all my covers whenever it comes to like Bushibu. I have 6 covers that I specifically put on there because all 6 were dedicated to somebody. And
Mhm.
so whenever I sold my PDF, I wanted those all included because they meant something to me.
This is
So
interesting.
I made sure to put all my covers on all my PDFs. It's again, one of those things that are extra that you can give your fan that they appreciate. I think.
And for me, it was more a matter of I didn't really think about it. The
Mm.
Mario A. Barraza cover was the PDF we really did, and so
Mhm.
that's the one I released. You know.
Let me ask a question because I know somebody who charges, you know, a cover a certain price for cover A, and then they have a nude cover, and then they charge a additional price for the nude cover PDF. And I'm saying to myself,
I've
that's
seen
kind of
that
weird.
too.
That's kind of weird, and that's kind of bizarre to me. Like, I can understand you saying, look, if you want to cover A because you're giving it to your 16-year-old kid, you don't want the nude cover per se. But the fact that you would charge like an extra $2 for another PDF that's just a different cover of it, like I
I
don't
mean,
get it.
everyone judges the value of a thing differently.
Yeah, and
If they feel that's valuable, I mean, other people are buying it, so they possibly think because of that instance that the comic's worth buying the other copy. So I mean, it depends on them, I suppose, what they're looking to sell. I mean, you paid for the cover if that's how you feel about it.
No, I
I don't
understand
really.
on a physical book. I got no problem on a physical book. I just don't
Well, I'm
get
saying even for the
on.
PDF though, I mean, you're releasing artwork that you paid for, like that's someone else's work. So I mean, I guess it depends on the person. Like I said, I didn't even really put the other covers out there. I only did my main cover on my PDF. Like, so, I mean, if, and not that I didn't think anyone else's covers were valuable, it's just I didn't really think on that level. Like, I was looking to release those as just physical books in the
So
first place. So,
let me ask
but I
you
mean,
a question. Yeah.
if I thought Greg Bo's art was worth $2 more for another book for another copy of the PDF, and someone wanted to pay for it, I don't
So
see how that's not value added.
this is my question, I guess, because I haven't produced. I mean, my Kickstarter was 90% digital. What I did because it was dealing with my podcast, and it's the nice thing about having a digital position is you don't have to deal with many physical books. But one of the things is that when you guys give a PDF and somebody picks up a PDF file, do you think that they're doing it as an investment, or do you think that they're saying, hey, it's either cheaper
Mhm.
and I just want to read the book, or I live in another country and it's a bitch to ship there, or that I have too much comic shit in my house and my wife's going to kill me.
It could be all of the above.
It could be all of the above.
I want to
I
have
bought
another
books.
kid.
I bought
Please
books as
don't castrate
PDFs just
me.
because I
Why?
was like, where am I going to put these? Like, I want to read the book, but where am I going to put it right now? Like,
So
just gonna grab
just
the
so
PDF.
everybody's aware, I'm right now sitting in my dad's office down in my basement because my dad's office is in the basement. He's on a trip in Africa, safari, photography. I want to make that crystal clear. And I'm staring at about 20 long boxes. I don't have any more room for comics, and
You
I
still
can
buy them
guarantee
though, don't you?
what.
You still buy them though, don't you? I don't have any more room for comics either, but I'm still buying them.
I'm buying and selling, and look, I'm being more, I guess, strategic in what I pick up, and I'm moving merch out. But the idea is that I maybe have another 10 long boxes, and so I have comicsology. I read a lot of comics every week. I probably read about 4 graphic novels a week. And I love it, and I'm relaxing. I'm not reading novels anymore. I'm reading a lot of cool Zenoscope stuff, and I love it. And I'm going through. I'm like, man, this is some good story shit. And so for me, I'm at the stage where I don't need everything physical, and I don't want to be destroyed on a digital book. And so that's why I asked this question about to the three of you. Where do you think people are buying digital comics and the rationale? Because I don't think somebody's looking for a Greg Bo Watson cover per se on a digital book if they want to read. That's just my thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong, and I could very well be wrong, and I'm willing to say, hey, if that's the case and you got a pull and you got data, I'm the first person to say I was wrong.
Well, it's anecdotal, but I had him actually asking me during the campaign because I didn't have a PDF. And they're from overseas, and they're like, we do not want to pay $15 shipping on a $15 book. So can you put out a PDF? And I sold a lot of PDFs that way. So, a lot of it was overseas shipping.
So I co-host a show, and again, I don't know if I can plug my show, but I co-host a show with a gentleman from Australia, and he always talks about how he mostly buys from PDFs because he doesn't want to pay for the shipping all the way to Australia. I also talk to my customers, and I've had several of them at conventions ask me for PDFs because they prefer the digital, because they like to read at a magnified kind of level or whatnot. I have
Well, not only that, but if you're reading it on a tablet, then you've got a tablet size worth of space taken up, but you've got 300 comic books if you've bought 300 comic books.
And also, I don't know if you guys know, but an iPad's a fucking badass screen.
Yeah.
If you have an iPad and you've got some serious backlighting, there's some serious cool shit that you can do on an iPad. And I mean, there are other good tablets too, but like I love my iPad. My iPad goes with me everywhere, and it's got like a nice backlit. It adjusts the light. I mean, it's a serious. It's a pretty powerful device, and it's awesome. So that's my point. Is that like when you have a backlit, it highlights things for you, and you can read. And if it's done right, and if people really want to do this, they can actually set their PDFs to do panel by panel.
Yeah.
And not only that, I have PDFs on my phone. I have comic books on my phone that I read during my breaks at my day job. So I mean, sometimes the PDF's just the way to go if I want to have access to the book.
Yeah. And I've had fans that said that they have poor eyesight and they don't like reading that physical because it's just right there, as opposed to the digital. They can blow up a little bit easier. So it's one of those things that you should definitely invest in both.
You cater to the customer, you cater to the fan base, right?
Yeah, I mean, even at my conventions, I've been playing with the idea of having a memory stick with my PDFs and selling that, as opposed to just a physical.
That's been done. Zenoscope used to do that, and I think they still do, and it's not bad.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you could just build a QR code and put it on a little card, and when someone buys a PDF, just let them scan it, and it'll download the PDF for you.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'll give you a better idea, Paul.
Yeah.
Instead of even selling it, once you get to a certain level with your thing, what you're going to want to do is that if they scan a QR code or they give you your email, you'll just send it directly to their email. And this way they get a free comic, and then you get them on your email list. That's the way you want to play it.
As a matter of fact, right now with my campaign that I'm doing, I'm like, if you sign up, I'm sending you that first book that I did for free. So it's like, one of those things digitally for free. So it's like one of those things that, you like selling those PDFs or giving them away if you can and helping you grow that fan base. Definitely.
All right. Well, that was the wife. She was asking if we were going to hang out, so I'd take that as a hint. We got to get going. So I'm gonna
Oh,
head
you're
out.
leaving me. You're leaving me. It's just terrible. So where can people find you, Chris? Because you're going to be on in what, like 2 weeks?
Yeah. We're going to be down at the Savannah Con in the end of this
Oh, I
week.
meant with me, not you. I don't give a
yeah.
shit. I don't care about me.
Yeah. I know we're going to be on. We're going to be on pretty soon. We've got so much stuff going on. But yeah, Laughing Rogue on the old. Get the hell out of here. Laughing Rogue on the Facebook. Geez, where else do we got? We are working with getting the site back up and running on GoDaddy, but they're being special. Of course, we're launching in mid-August with Slaughterville Book 2, and that's where we're going to be at. So check us out.
Yeah, and then Chris will be on what, August 4th, I want to say?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that's when we had it scheduled.
Yeah, I'll be there. It'll be fun. I'll make
All
sure
right.
I know what I'm doing. So,
Have a good night, Chris.
All right, we'll see you
Take
in
care,
a while.
Chris.
But now that we got Chris out of here, we could actually have a real conversation.
All right.
Oh man.
Gage, time to start singing.
No, it's your turn. I already did mine. You didn't hear me
Oh,
singing.
no,
I
there will
sang
be no
Separate
singing
Ways
on my
by
No
Journey.
singing on this show? Okay.
I already did that
I wonder
earlier.
what
We're
I can
good.
find right now on the internet to come join us. I wonder what friends of mine want to join. Because I wonder if I even have any friends left in comics, especially after that Raven Gregory interview. I mean that thing was amazing. It was all I'm gonna say. But yeah, even into diving into more of this because this I want to go back to the Eric J thing too, and I'm curious how you guys feel about this. $35 for a freaking book is expensive. Even a 100-pager, it's pricey. And I mean, I'm going to throw it, and I'm going to mention another name, and I don't mean to talk shit about her, Mandy Summers. And I like Mandy. I think Mandy's a great writer. But $25 for a cover A of Gem Shock, that's pricey. I mean, and maybe I come from the world of Zenoscope, and this is my justification, not to throw her under the bus, but they sell a Paul Green that for $25. That's limited to 250, and so that's my problem is that there gets to a point where I get priced out of the market, and so I'm curious how you guys feel about that because we're going into a recession, money's getting tighter, money's always tight in my world, and I can't be buying a book that's a cover A for
See,
$25.
I don't really question how other people sell their books, man. I mean, that's their idea of the value of that book, and the customer base will show whether they can sell it for that. Like we were talking about the $1 million Kickstarters earlier. If they can bring the fan base, then sell your books how you want to. Like I can't really question that. I can only question whether or not I can afford to buy it in the end.
I mean,
I
guess.
And when I'm looking at a book, I look at that. Hey, I really want this book, but can I really throw in $35 for it? I really can't. And that's, I mean, I think everybody's going to wind up doing that. And the books that can pull off selling like that will sell like that.
I guess I think about it differently because I look at it from an investment standpoint, right? So I look at this, and this is where I guess creators and somebody like me who invests in comics and has an idea and understands certain how books operate, and I'm like, man, I just don't see where this book is going, and maybe it's an indie thing, and so it's like, and look, I come in from a perspective that's slightly different. I also look at this and say to value an indie book as an investment is a very tricky thing.
Yeah,
because there is no track record. And even if somebody's been doing indie comics for 10 years, there is no standard. You look at a company like Zenoscope, you look at a company like DC, you look at, an artist like Clayton Crane is a good example.
Yeah.
And that's where this gets tricky. And so it's not an issue of the story in the book. It's not an issue of how much money even the Kickstarter raises. And so that's where I get, very interesting is that where I'm very comfortable as a backer at about $15 for a cover A is where I'm very comfortable. At 35, I'm just priced out because I'm like, I can't come to the conclusion of, and then your variant is $50. It's like, what the fuck? Like, because to me, a variant should be like $25 or $30. It should not be 25 for cover A, and that's like the buy-in price. Because that's how I feel as a customer too. Is that there gets a point where I just say, hey, look, your book's cool, but I can't afford it.
So I think there's a lot of subjects right there that you threw out there. First of all, we're talking about like the price of your cover A's. You know, I'm a poor person, and whenever I started this, I was kind of like barely able to invest in what I did. And having said that, I wanted to make sure that I had a cover A that was affordable for people, so I try to keep it at $8 for my cover A's. Uh, and it really depends on the variants. I know with Bushibu, I had 6 covers, and I did have one artist that I valued that one cover at $15 for that variant. But again, my cover A was $8 because I wanted to make sure I kept one affordable, and the rest of the variants were covered or for $10. But it really depended on how much I was spending on the artist to make that cover. The one cover that I valued at
Yeah.
$15 was a little bit more that I paid for that art. So it was like I wanted to get that investment or, the money that I put back into
I
it.
don't have a problem with that. Where I don't have a
Right.
problem once you go to variants,
Right.
that doesn't matter to me. It's
So
that cover A that
yeah,
that bothers me when you were like putting the
yeah,
cover A, because that means that everything else, where when you go out and you get a Greg Watson, or you go get an Ebass, or you go get a Courtney Dan Rose, then it's like the price just, or you get a Steph Wilson, the price then has to jump up from that standard point. Where if you start out expensive, it only gets more expensive.
right. Right. And then that's kind of a hard thing to evaluate. It really depends on the creator. Now, I mean, we were talking
Once
about.
again, oh, sorry, go for it.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's the fan base.
Yeah.
Like if you have a certain cover and it brings in the fans, that's why you can charge more for it. It all comes back to the fan base.
Yeah, definitely. And how well they're going to sell and how much that artist is going to help you push that book. Because some artists don't really help you push that much. Some get out there and push just as much as you. Well, probably not as much as me, but definitely go out there and push. And I've been grateful for all the artists that have helped. But there have been 1 or 2 artists that just made the cover and really hadn't said anything past that point. So it really has a lot of factors into it. How much did the artist charge you? How much are they going to help sell your book? Is it going to sell even after the campaign? Now, as far as investments, I tell people, one of my lines is, I'm not Stan Lee. I'm not Chip Zdarsky or Donny Cates, but this is my first year in comics, and who knows where I'm going to be 10, 15 years from now. This might be a first comic book from someone who actually makes it in the field and is going out there. Everybody's been telling me that I've been doing great, and I'm not exactly judging where I am at the moment, but my first comic did sell 1,000 comics within 3 months, and everyone says that that's a huge bar to have set for myself, but it wasn't something that I was aiming for. So whenever it comes to PTSD, I didn't exactly have any exclusives or anything like that because I didn't know that. Whenever it came to this third comic, Cryptic Haze, I actually did have a Kickstarter exclusive that only about 15 people bought, and that's all I'm making. Those 15 and plus 10 that I gave to that artist for commission or comps, and that's all that cover is limited to. So if that Cryptic Haze actually catches on, that cover A and B is probably not going to be worth that much, but that Facebook variant that's only about 28, 29 copies out there would probably be a little bit more to invest in. With Bushibu issue 2 that's going on Kickstarter, I'm going to have a Kickstarter exclusive there too, and it's only going to be how many ever get sold on that Kickstarter.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense because I was going to ask about protection as well, where this is a whole thing when you buy something on Kickstarter. And again, I'm jaded because I think differently, and I'm also interested in saying okay, because my philosophy is that everybody who buys comics at some point will unload their collection in some fashion, or their kids are going to unload their collection unless their collection gets destroyed, which is not what I want. There gets to a point where you have to unload your collection. And so every person who says, hey, I'm not an eBay seller, I'm not a flipper, there will come a point where you sell your collection.
Right.
However you do it is up to you. But there always just comes a time. It's when you have a girl coming or a son coming, and then your comic room becomes the baby's room. It is usually when it happens. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Paul. You know
about
exactly.
23 years old or so, I came across an ex-girlfriend of mine who had a son, and he was into comics, and I had this collection, and I stopped buying at that time, and he loved these comics. He would come over and read them, and I gave them to him because of his love for comics. And there were some pricey comics in there, but it was, one of those things that you kind of just moved on from. Right now, looking back, I would love to have those comics, but I'm glad I did give them to him, because like I said, there were some great comics in there. A few that I rebought. Yeah.
No. I know exactly. There gets a point where you give stuff away to somebody to foster the next generation, and I think that's a problem right now in comics collectively. Is the next generation is not really being built in multiple ways.
Yeah.
It's not being built in the indies. It's not being built by Marvel or DC.
Right.
And Chuck Dixon was on my show a long time ago on my other show. And the biggest mistake that has done a whole generation worth of damage is getting comics out of supermarkets.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's kind of a hard thing whenever you're talking about aiming towards the kids. Now, the way I got into comics is I was trying to lift the morale of my family. And so I kind of got my kids together and we started writing. We kind of collectively put all the ideas together, which was Bushibu Circus Mysteries. So I was introducing them into comics, and then we started writing these stories. And at one point we decided to make comics. So I was like, let's write a story and let's make it a comic and let's go from there. It's hard to tell what the younger generation's going to grasp onto. I know whenever I was younger, I grasped onto X-Men, which was Marvel based, but I don't see those comics out there that I probably would grasp if I was a teenager. And that was one of the reasons I write the comics that I do, because I wanted a little bit more mature. I know a lot of our indie artists say, you got to build an all ages kind of group. But I think those mid-range to older people are the ones that are missing out on this stuff, because most people are either doing, the all ages stuff or the very adult stuff. Where's the mid kind of level stuff?
What about you, Gage? What do you think?
Oh,
is he here?
He agrees with me.
Can you hear me?
We lost Gage.
I just had a boomer moment. I had my mic.
Hey, Gage, we can't hear you. Gage, you're not speaking. We can't hear you, Gage.
So they're still selling their IPs, though, and it's bringing people to reading comic books. I mean, they may not be on the level that we felt they were when we were kids, but I think everyone feels that way about the stuff when they were kids. I mean, they're still bringing people to reading comic books, and they're still selling their IPs in big ways. So I can't really say that Marvel and DC aren't doing anything when it comes to, like, I mean, they have to be bringing people to indies too. I mean, when people get hooked on that stuff, they're coming to look for it. So I think it's doing. I mean, when I was a kid, it was rough finding like 8 other guys who wanted to sit around and read comics with me. Nowadays, like, all that stuff's mainstream. Like, it just from Disney movies. They're the ones that have made it mainstream. And then there's manga and anime and all that stuff is, I mean, it's mainstream now. When I was a kid, it wasn't. So I think they've brought it way to the forefront.
I think they're missing a lot of shots whenever it comes to the movies and stuff by not putting the comic books out with the movies along the same time. I think they're doing a decent job. I don't think they're doing a great job or a good job, but I would say decent.
They're making more money than I am, so I can't judge them.
Yeah, but I mean,
When I have an
I
intellectual property that Disney wants to make a movie about, then I can stand up there and be like, I don't know that you guys are doing it right, and give them my opinion. But as of right now, they're doing it better than I am. So
Gage, I have to ask you this question. So it's all about the money, right?
well, I don't know that it's all about the money, but I mean, people are seeing their work. People are seeing their work. They're willing to like pay to see that work. That's once again, it comes down to the fan base, and I think they have grown that fan base by taking it into other mediums.
But I mean, you know, even though
I'm not worked up.
Everything just be quiet for a second. Gage, I was making a joke.
Even though they have the money to make the movies and stuff, and people are going mainly because the MCU movies were so great. Look at how many people that the DC movies are kind of like pushing away, and everyone's saying how bad that they're messing things up. It's not that they're not doing a decent job. Like I said, you know, they are bringing people because of the movies, but they're missing those shots that back when, you know, Batman came out, you know,
Christopher Nolan Batman.
No, Batman. Michael Keaton. Batman.
Oh, that Batman. That was good, man. That was
good
too.
They had all the comics lined up at the same time that the movies came out. They had all these magazines that had everything that was pushing the movie as well. So, nowadays, you don't see all that stuff as soon as the movie comes out because they're kind of missing that shot.
When did? Correct me if I'm wrong. Did Michael Keaton come out in '89? I want to say. So it came out in '89, right when Batman was starting to become dark again, right?
Right.
Because of Denny, right? Denny O'Neil was really instrumental in that. And then for like the next 8 years, we had really dark shit in Batman. I mean, we had, was that the Tim Sales, Joseph Loeb era, and then Chuck Dixon with Nightfall continued that? Or did The Long Halloween, Year One, and all that stuff come after Nightfall? I forget the order.
I think he came after Nightfall.
But I think there's something leading into Nightfall, and then pretty much Nightfall happened, which continued the darkness. And Nightfall began in 1994, I want to say, or was it 96?
You're gonna get me because I was jumping around at that time in and out of comics.
It's been a while since I've had Chuck on. That's why I ask. I mean, I love Nightfall. What was going on for those who don't know in DC. And I have a funny story about that. Paul Lovitz was a professor of mine when I was in undergrad at Manhattanville, teaching writing for the media. So he's an adjunct professor at Manhattanville. And this is where the story gets fun. I used to live in D.C. So Dan Jurgens and Paul Lovitz were lecturing at the Library of Congress talking about 80 years of Superman. So I'm the stupid kid on the record. And then I say this openly. I'm like, I asked a question. I'm like, "Hey, professor, how are you?" Into like an audience full of people, and then I said, "Oh yeah, it's Andrew Davis from Manhattanville. He used to teach me." And like the entire crowd just started laughing because it was funny. So now I asked the question about Doomsday and Superman because that happened right when Nightfall was happening, and I think this goes to Paul's point where a lot of this stuff in comics was lining up, and I think that's part of the problem of our generation being lost. Is that it was cool to go see Batman and then have it on the big screen and then have that translate over into a book you were reading, it not being over-sexualized, it not necessarily having bad language. Maybe it was a little complicated for little Jimmy, the 10-year-old with mommy in the supermarket, but little Jimmy could get it if he could absorb a good chunk of it. And mommy was happy because it was $1.25. And Jimmy was good while mommy went to go meet her friend for coffee, had a cig while her coffee.
I think that got away from you, Andrew.
but
I don't know. I think it's way more mainstream now. I think they've brought it around and into that. And Batman was a big name, but I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy back then, I mean, like I hadn't heard of Guardians of the Galaxy before the movie came out. It's a comic book I've read since then.
Let me ask a legit question. Who here thought Guardians of the Galaxy could ever been a movie?
No.
Honestly.
Okay. So let me
But
ask
I'm
you this:
just saying they've brought people to reading them.
Do
They've
you
brought
think
people to reading them too.
Do you think the sales of Guardians of the Galaxy is really that much up now?
Oh, I think
I
it's
don't know if it
crazy.
is now, but I know it was during the movie.
Maybe during the first movie, but after the second movie, the sales for that comic really didn't go up that high. And that's what I'm saying. They're missing that point because they could be writing these stories in the comics that kind of correlate with the movie, or even have the code. Hey, go see the movie to find out what's going on in this comic, or buy the comic.
Let me ask you a question, because this is really interesting. I don't think so. We're all comic fans, right? We all have collected comics. I'm a big Pop Funko fan, right? So I think there's an easier conversion for somebody buying Christmas Groot as a Pop Funko for their girlfriend or their boyfriend than there is for them buying a graphic novel or a comic. I think a graphic novel is an easier sell than a comic book right now. For if you go see the movie. I think graphic novel sales and a comic book are two different sales, right? I think a comic book in a lot of ways is a novelty. A graphic novel is in a bookstore. It's on Amazon. So I think if we're talking about graphic novel sales, I think those are slightly up because of the movie. I think comic sales are not. That's just my view. I could be wrong, but the way I see things is that I divide those into two categories. Now, is a graphic novel a comic? Technically, yeah, but it's not the same as a floppy. If that makes any sense.
I think graphic novels are up. I mean, without the movies themselves, the graphic novels are up a little bit more popular to. And again, this goes to the age of the reader, because the floppies were more aimed towards the younger readers. Graphic novels, because the audiences are a little bit more mature nowadays, and you're kind of, I don't want to say ignoring that age group, but I know my teenagers really don't want to read the graphic novels. They want the floppies. And I think, like I said, I think it's missing that 10 to 20-ish range, and you're not picking those people up. What you do have is either the more mature readers or the people that are aiming for the very young.
I don't know, Gabe.
Well,
What do
the
you
only
think?
thing I can say to that is I think that the medium's changed a little bit too. Like
Yeah.
when my kids read stuff, they read it on their phones or on the
Right.
computer. They're not as much grabbing the books as they are finding it on in some form of PDF on a streaming site or something, or
So why
out
not
there in the universe.
put a QR code in the movie and have like 4 or 5 free floppies that they could download while they're at the movie? These are
Again, they could do a lot. They could do a lot more, but they're still.
but
I
they're
mean,
they're
they're still
not,
selling
because
stuff.
they're getting money off the merchandise in the movie itself, that they're not really worried about their floppies.
So
I think.
this raises the question, right? So I mean, full disclosure, I own a decent amount of Disney stock. Um, because Disney's a great company, right? And so I like the Disney store. I have a Disney credit card.
Right.
It's Tinkerbell, in case anybody was wondering. You take
Yeah,
out a girl to a nice restaurant and you pull out your Tinkerbell card,
that's class.
it's funny. It's funny. And you have a waitress and she just looks at you. You look at her and your girl looks at you. Oh,
Yeah.
I wish next time I do it, I'm gonna definitely make a TikTok out of it. I'll make an Instagram reel out of it too for everybody. It's so funny. I find it to be hilarious. I do it for myself, and also I like my Disney rewards.
Right.
Well, and another thing to say that they're doing too, though. I mean, like when I was a teenager, I think 3 people I knew a lot of the comic book stuff I talked about, and nowadays you can mention that stuff to Joe, whatever, Joe Average, and he knows about Thor and knows about freaking the Hulk, and because he's seen these movies, and
Right.
you can share that with people that, I mean, when I was younger, we were nerds for that. We'd be kings now if we were in high school now,
and
you know.
and because of the movies, because of the movies, it's brought a lot of fans to the Marvel medium, and the movie medium. My girlfriend, she loves Deadpool, but she hasn't probably read one floppy of Deadpool in her life.
But she recognizes him to buy a T-shirt or a
Right.
backpack or a
Right.
Deadpool teddy bear.
But that doesn't help the comics. That's what I'm saying. You need to help the comics because that's where it
does.
started out.
it does again, though. We're talking about that 90% and 10%. The 10% that see those movies and go and pick up the comics, I'll take
agree.
that.
I'll agree with you.
Take
There's
that,
a percentage.
you know.
I'll agree with
I mean,
you.
I hate to say it, but when they're pulling in billions of dollars, that 10% is a big chunk, you know. So it's they're helping.
Like I said, I
They
think they're
really
doing
are.
decent. I don't think they're doing good. I think they could do more. I think they're missing a lot of shots here.
And that's just a matter of who you are in the fan base too. You're much used to the older stuff, and they're selling it to a new generation, and they're trying to put in it what they think the new generation wants to see, and it doesn't always jive with what you know of your childhood heroes. And sometimes that can make people a little jaded, but at the same time, you have to look at the fact that they're still doing what they're doing for comic books.
This raises a question, right? This raises the question: is that what is the point of the comic now? And where I'm going with this is that is the comic another revenue stream, or is the comic an IP position and the idea? And then it raises the other question where you get to somebody like Scott Snyder, where he has a good comicsology deal. He has stuff with IDW and Dark Horse for a lot of his books, and he's got 8 or 10 titles now.
So that's about the creator, though, Andrew. That's the same thing about why you collect comics and why I collect comics. You collect comics as an hold on. You collect comics as an investment. I collect comics as a hobby because I love them. And so some creators are out there selling comic books because they love telling a story, and some comic creators are out there looking to make money. That's the difference, like you said, about the person who charges for the variant cover.
The question where I was going at is I get that point. Where I was going is that where it gets interesting for me is that when DC Comics does Superman, I think they're becoming an IP farm, saying what's the next Superman thing, but what is Scott doing? And I think you were hitting on it, to be very honest. But it gets tricky for me where I'm like, what is because I think this is where the fork comes at, right? Where DC and Marvel, I think, have become IP farms, and that's what I think. But then you look at somebody like Scott Snyder, and then you look at somebody like you, Gage, and even you, Paul, where I don't think you guys are IP farms, at least not yet. I think I don't think you're opposed. Gage and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. If somebody came to you and said, "Hey, we really like Godslayers, and we want to do an anime," you would say, "Okay, tell me more," right?
So I originally wrote Godslayers as an anime. Like, that's where the script for my comic book is coming from. And so, no, I would just be like, oh, here's the script.
I think that Marvel and DC are, IP farms. I think what they're doing with the floppy base or, the comic books is basically testing out their ideas that they are going to bring to the big screen later on. I don't think they care about the revenue stream whenever it comes to floppies. I could be wrong. And I think that's where the anger comes from a lot of people. I still think that Marvel and DC are essential. And I hope that floppy stories and art kind of lift up a little bit, because I think it is falling just a little bit.
So DC is profitable as a company, not by much, but they are profitable.
And they're basically leaning on Batman now, and that's the only reason they're profitable. I mean, whenever you think about all their other titles and you see how much they're not making as opposed to what they should be doing, I mean, they're the major two. If you have to lean on one character, should you have that title of being a major two? No, because you should have 30 characters out there that are throwing out home runs after home runs, and you don't see that. You see weekly comics coming out and people saying, why did I buy this?
So can I say something about DC real quick?
Sure.
Everyone's got to admit, though, that they have the best cartoons and cartoon movies, right? Like, I love Marvel, but the cartoon movies that come out for Batman and Superman and all that stuff, they've been the best since the 90s. They may not have the cinema, but they've definitely got the
But we're talking floppies, though. I mean, I'm not talking about the movies or the other revenue streams, cartoons or merchandise.
Because DC has done one thing as the greatest thing ever, and that's Young Justice. As an animation, unbelievably good. Dude.
I love
Unbelievably
I love Titans. I mean, I love watching
Teen Titans, the original Teen Titans was badass, and for me, the '90s Batman was like the pinnacle of
Yeah.
superhero cartoons.
Yeah.
Like they did X-Men, but X-Men was all over the place and a little hard to
So
follow,
I got
and
a
it was
question.
90% reruns when I watched it. But
I-
Batman, the
so-
animated series, was fantastic.
Then Gage, you know anime, Paul. Do you know anime?
A little bit here and there.
So Gage, I'm going to ask you a very interesting question. This is going to determine our friendship for the rest of our lives.
Oh,
How do you
that's
feel
no
about
pressure.
Big O? Yeah,
About
no
what?
pressure, Gage. How do you feel about Big O?
I haven't watched it.
Oh, you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it. If you love Batman the Animated Series, watch Big O. Because the team that worked on Batman the Animated Series worked on Big O.
Okay.
Like the animation, it's almost like identical. It's unbelievable, and you will not regret it. You might not like necessarily the story of Big O, but the animation is right on par with Batman the Animated Series.
Okay.
I don't think you'll regret it. It's like $25 on Sentai right now for the 2 seasons on Blu-ray. So
Huh.
you got a Blu-ray player, dude. I don't think you'll regret it. That's what I'm gonna say.
I'll have to check it out. I just got Crunchyroll, so I've been burning through some anime while I've been doing other stuff. So
That's good too. What are you watching?
all kinds of stuff, man. I watched the Skeleton and the
was
Reborn as
good.
a Skeleton in Another World. We watched Shadow House. We watched. Oh my goodness, we watched a bunch of them. What was
Have you watched
the other?
Fanny
Oh, we
and
watched the
Stockings
Reborn in
yet?
a Villainous Life. I guess I watch a lot of the isekai ones right now.
Have you seen Rise of the Shield Hero yet?
Of course I have. Not season 2. Season 2, I'm sorry. I love Shield Hero. In season 1 I've watched it like 9 times, but season 2 I can't get through it.
Yeah, see, season 2 is painful, man. See, season 2 is not
Yes.
that tough for.
I love it so much. I've been looking forward to it for so long and I can't get through it.
Eric Kimmer was on my show, and he plays the bow hero. And season 2 is rough, man. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's killing me.
So the reason why I bring up anime is that right now manga is slaying dragons. I mean,
Well,
undeniably, manga is amazing. I like reading manga. I thoroughly enjoy manga.
again, and even they're bringing some percentage to comic books. People looking for manga are finding comic books too. I mean, none of this stuff is hurting us. Like, I mean, when I was a kid, you went to comic shops to get comic books. If you were lucky, they had them in the grocery store or the 7-Eleven, you know. And now they're everywhere. I mean, if you're looking for manga, you're finding comic books.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask you a question, and then I'll tell my story after you guys. How'd you guys get introduced to graphic novels?
Mine were always trades of like big trades of comic books, like collections of Spider-Man and stuff like that. I didn't get into graphic novels really until like The Walking Dead.
No, most of mine were floppies, and you know, I'd pick up 1 or 2 graphic novels of something that I didn't have the complete collection of the floppies for. So I mean, I really didn't pick up that many graphic novels.
Yeah. Walking Dead was really the first one. So Gunslinger too. Stephen King's Gunslinger. Oh man, those ones. Gunslinger is like I love the Gunslinger series. Sorry, I've read the books 3 times, and I bought the graphic novels for that. And I'm not a huge Stephen King fan, but that's just a great story.
I think I got like 5 graphic novels, maybe Frank Miller's Ronin, and I think I got Stray Dogs because I kind of missed out from the get-go of that. And
yeah, my stack of it's literally Walking Dead, like 9 novels, and then the Gunslinger series. So I didn't collect that many.
The reason why I bring this up is I used to be an anime like weeboo. Used to go to Barnes and Noble every weekend. Used to get some manga, and it was fantastic, right? Now, what's across from the manga aisle is the graphic novel aisle.
Yeah.
Back when I'm like 12, right? So one day you're like, yeah, I don't see anything I like in manga. What's this? And I can't be the only one. I mean, I think the two of you, and hopefully I'm not going to say anything ultra offensive, are older than me. I'm 29. I think that's a safe statement, right?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that without getting
My
into
oldest
too much
son could
trouble?
be your little brother and not be too far off.
But so we're talking what 17 years ago, and this whole thing's I'm 12 years old, and now I'm like, oh, this book looks cool, and then it's $12. Manga at the time I think was like $9. And my dad's like, sure, you could read it, and then you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. Oh, and then you go back the next week, you're like, oh, there's a second volume, and so that's how I got introduced to comics, and I'm like, this is kind of cool, right? And then you're shifting between manga and graphic novels, and now Barnes and Noble has changed the one I go to.
What
And
Barnes and Noble had in that aisle that I used to look for were the RPG books.
Yeah.
White
those are in the
Wolf
aisle
and
next.
D&D
Over.
books.
But the reason why I think that manga has been a very good positive position is I don't think in the comic shop it's been good. I think in places like Barnes and Noble and when Borders was around, all of a sudden when you go in there, I think if the manga's right next to comics, naturally somebody's going to gravitate over. It might take a few weeks, it might take 6 months, but they're going to get there and then they're going to come in. And I was speaking with Levitz, and he said on air, Paul Hudson, I got to interview him. He's like, well, manga kind of taught graphic novels how to do shit to some degree. I think it's safe to say that without manga, there's a good chance the graphic novel market in Barnes and Noble and in Borders books and in other bookstores would not survive because manga is a driving force. It's always been popular, and it's always been a gateway to graphic novels.
Mr. Andrew, I'm going to have to bail, my good sir.
I see how it is. You just don't like it.
I'm going to take my kids out. It's summer. We're going to go karaoke, so.
All right.
I will catch you guys later. Thank you for having me on. It was good to see you again, Paul.
Great
and I got
you.
away without singing on air. I'm going to go sing someplace else.
I was about to say, don't sing new kids out there.
No, I'm doing like Bowling for Soup or Journey or something. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for having me on, Andrew.
Well, I don't know who that was. That's hot. I guess Todd's here.
What up?
Who's Nick?
How's it going?
Hey, that's so that's my buddy that hosts the podcast with me. We just wrapped ours, so I was just like, "Yo, let me share it with him too." And I figured he'd come hop on and talk. He works all the shows with me.
So Todd does a podcast or just started one, but he does some other stuff, and so I'll bring Nick in. What's up?
There we go.
So this is Paul.
What's up?
How y'all doing?
What's going on, guys?
Paul, how's it going, man?
Good.
So Todd, what book do you do? Because I forget. It's been a long day.
So you're good, bro. So I got 2 titles that I'm working on, or that I got that are out: Project Titans, and then Atlas Rising with YouTube influencer Randy Santel. Then I got a new title I'm working on, all ages title called Sheldor the Defender, which will be dropping pretty soon. So that one's been a lot of fun, and it's been fun working on an all ages book. It's been interesting. So, and then my boy Nick here, he co-hosts my podcast with me that we've been playing around with, and I call him the Lord Emperor of handling everything that I don't want to do when it comes to going to Comic Cons and
that's the new title as of tonight. So.
Yeah, we came up with that tonight. So Lord Emperor of everything Todd doesn't want to do.
Congratulations for the promotion.
Yeah. So we just wrapped our. We were talking to Andrew from Grey Ghost Comics up in Tifton, Georgia, and we're going to chat with them just about everything in terms of running a comic book store, what they look for when they're doing their orders, and just really talking through the business side of it, and then obviously talking through the nerdy stuff as well. So it was a lot of fun, man. It was cool. Thanks for letting us join in.
Thanks for the invite.
Oh.
Yeah, I got nothing going on. I got to finish my second beer, and I'm only a little bit in. So it's actually cool. It's an Allegiance edition, and it's from a local brewery, and they're donating $1 for every can they sell to Ukraine. So it's kind of cool.
Nice. Very cool.
I like it.
I'm just hoping I'm just
Yeah.
hoping my kid doesn't wake up. That's where I'm at right now. So.
You have 1 or 2 now.
One. So I have one kid, my daughter, Annabelle, but we're actually we just started the adoption process. So I haven't really shared this with a lot of people. We're starting the process. And we're going to adopt. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I gotta fix that problem. I gotta find somebody who wants to have a kid with me. But that's a different discussion.
Just enjoy your sleep in the meantime, bro. Just enjoy your
Between
sleep
me
in
and
the
my
meantime.
girl, we got 6 kids, so I'm good.
Oh shit!
Yeah, 3 of them,
Man.
3 are mine, and
Yeah.
6 kids altogether.
What are the
I'm okay.
ages? What are
Oh
the-
you're
man,
good,
well,
bro.
the oldest one is 22, and he's out of there. The second oldest is 18, and he's basically almost out. The next one is like 16, and she's a handful. Then I got twins that are 14, and my youngest is 6.
Dude.
Man.
So
More
you just
power
don't
to you.
sleep.
Man, what is that?
Yeah,
What?
you've learned how to leave all past sleep.
I mean, work, kids, and comics. Woo!
So I'm literally sitting here doing the math, and I'm like, cool. Like I can hang out for about 24 more minutes, and then I have to immediately go to sleep because my daughter will wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and if I have less than 6 hours sleep, I cannot parent. Like it's just not how it happens. So I'm just like, all right, cool. Like, so no, I feel you. Like 6 hours is my cutoff. Like I have to have that.
Well, I gave up sleep a long time ago. I don't have any kids, and not that I am aware of. I mean,
You're aware of. Fingers crossed.
Good.
Oh. Ooh,
So what, Paul, man? What book are you working on? Like, I want to hear about this, man. What you got?
Wow.
You got cool art.
Back
Looking around you, I got a blank ass wall. You got cool
Yeah.
stuff. I'm just like, what's going on, man?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a brand new writer and creator. I just started about 8 months ago. I put out 3 books that were fully funded. My first one is called PTSD. It was a passion project of mine. My second one's Bushibu Circus Mystery right here. That was one that me and my kids kind of put together and we put out. That was fully funded as well. My third one that was put out just for, I guess, about 2 months ago was Cryptic Haze. And that kind of got the biggest fanfare to date of my, of my 3. And then my newest one's coming out on July 30th, which is actually Bushibu Circus Mystery issue 2. And then I got another one slated in October. So it's like, I'm brand new at this, but I'm trying to hit the ground running.
Hey, you're working.
Bro, brand new, but
Yeah.
hustling. Look at you,
Yeah,
man. Good stuff.
Yeah,
You said
learning the
fully funded. You do them
convention.
on Kickstarter or
Yes.
or
Yes, the 3 were on
crowdfunding?
Kickstarter. Yeah,
Okay.
3 were on Kickstarter. I thought about going to Indiegogo at one point, but it kind of confused me a little bit. I looked at a Zook.
Zoop, yeah.
Yeah, and then I looked into crowdfunder just recently because I'm also on a show, Comic Crusaders, Think Indie and Thundercats, and we did a show on crowdfunder just about a week or 2 ago.
Sweet. Very cool, man. Well, dude, that's awesome. Do you do any Comic Cons?
I have done a few. I've done about 6, and I'm brand new, so I'm still learning the ropes. I did Dallas Fan Expo, which was my biggest, and it was just about 2 months ago, and man, that was interesting.
Yeah. Do you do all your artwork and do you do everything, or do you
No.
do just the story? Or
Yeah, I just do the story. I wrote and created it, and of course I project manage most of it. I learned a lot of it from my my first editor.
I love the way you phrase that, by the way. That's absolutely project manage is yes.
Yeah, that's controlling the chaos if you can, kind
So
of
you
thing.
parent. You parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having 6 kids led me up into comic creation. It was like, oh,
Damn,
so
dude.
this is
I'm
what
like
it.
shocked.
Yeah.
Nick, you want to be dismayed so I can be shocked?
do what?
You want to be dismayed and so I can be shocked?
Sure, I can be dismayed. Definitely. Yeah.
Nick, by the way, if we were beside each other, I would have punched you and you said just do the writing.
Well, I apologize. Okay. Well,
No problem. Hey, I mean, it takes a lot, even after the writing.
You might lose Lord Emperor out of your title for that.
Yeah, I don't think people get it. Like seriously, like to run something by yourself is so fucking hard.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
and
I
to
know
think
I
of the
can't do that
idea,
stuff.
just thinking of an idea that might get out there and be
Yeah.
sellable, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Then finding the artist that goes with your story. These are, a lot of things. I had to
And it-
study, how people did lines, pencils, inks, and
Mhm.
colors. I didn't know that was all a different thing whenever I started. And
Yeah.
looking into the different formats and the way they are. I have one artist for my horror story and one artist for my Bushibu
Mhm.
circus, which were totally different. And it was just, I mean, it's a heck of a thing to do. And dealing with editors, I love my editors to death, but sometimes I think I get on their nerves. So,
Oh,
yeah,
I'm confident I get on my editor's nerve. I'm
like
extremely confident I do. Editor, I
I don't
love
have
you.
an idea.
You're amazing.
yeah, oh
You
yeah,
make me better. Make me a better person, better writer, better person. But
they
I
make you
know
shine.
I know I get on your nerves, and I appreciate you nonetheless. Yeah, that's man, it's a lot. But yeah, I would say too with the Comic Cons. So we have Tampa coming up. Tampa's next weekend.
Next week, yep.
Yeah, Tampa's next weekend. That one's gonna be a lot of fun. But Fan Expo Dallas, we had some friends that went and did that one, and they said they did pretty well at it. They said it was pretty good. So
Yeah, I mean, I was happy with it. I mean, it was, to me, it felt a little overcrowded, but maybe that was because it was the biggest one I've ever been to. I did a few right there at the end of the pandemic. I did Fan Expo New Orleans, and they had a lot of cancellations. So I guess I felt like there wasn't as many people there that would have been if it hadn't been the way it was.
I got some questions actually because I haven't been to a
Sure.
con. I had a really bad experience on my last thing that I did as a panelist and a fan panelist at that, where I wasn't on the schedule and I felt disrespected and it left a really bad taste in my mouth. And then COVID hit, and so I don't know how the con scene has actually come back because this entire show, both on the interview level and just this year, all these hangouts are really a response to cons not existing, people getting fucked over. And so I don't know how the response back has been. And obviously San Diego's going on right now, but I don't know if it's half and half. I don't know exactly what it looks like. And I don't even know if, this is going to, I mean, my take is that stuff like this is here to stay.
yeah,
Because
I agree.
I said we haven't.
Hang on, before I dig into that, is that a dragon? Are you wearing a Dragon Ball T-shirt? Like I'm trying to like, what's up? What you wearing?
Yeah.
Stop. All right. Let's go here. Yeah, there we go. All right. Cool.
It's from Ways Shop, and I don't have a sponsorship with them, but they're a really cool company, and it's like soccer jersey material. So
Yeah,
like,
looks awesome.
if you have a kid that like is playing soccer, like that's how this feels. Like it's cool.
Yeah.
Like it feels cold, and that's why I like it. I have an Alice in Wonderland one. They have a Naruto one. They have a Space Jam one. They have a Kobe one, and yeah, I got an Alice
I had
one.
to check out the Space Jam one. You caught my attention with Space
All
Jam.
right. Yeah. I'm just like, what's up?
The Kobe's cool too, man. Like the Kobe's legit.
you know.
Like, but I would say the Alice, the Goku, and the Piccolo's cool. The Vegeta's cool because the Alice and the Goku one are like this. The Space Jam one is a little, I guess, nicer.
Cartoon.
It's not as trippy.
Yeah, that's fair. Well,
let's say we haven't, back to your conquest. We haven't done any big ones. Tampa is obviously our biggest one this year, I think, so far. But we did Tallahassee last month or month before, and it was.
I don't even know what month it is, bro.
It was bigger than it was the year before. We did really well. Their setup is really, really good. We thought it was good last year, and it was even better this year. I mean, they have like a Smash Brothers tournament going on all weekend long.
Yeah,
they have a couple of the indie artists. Like the indie artists are in the middle. They're voice actors, so like they're in the middle. So everybody else is all around them. There was a steady stream of people just about all weekend. There were certain lulls, when panels were going on, but there's a pretty steady stream of people.
The reason why I ask is that I've only been a fan panelist. And look, I've done 50 panels, and as a man with a disability and very open about it, I figured out that when I was 18, 19, that if I do panels and I do clever ideas, I'm going to attract people to me instead of competing. which I think is actually pretty cool. And so I've sold out a panel in the Javits Center, which is a really weird thing at Anime NYC. People were rejected from it. I never felt more proud of myself. And then I went to a bar, and then I got a girl's number that night too. very cool thing, and she was fun to hang around with for about 4 months. Until she went back to her ex, but that we don't have to talk about that. But all putting all that aside, I've never been as a retailer. I've never had a table. I've never been as a guest. And so for me, I mean, everything that I sell and everything I deal is I don't have a book. So like, that's why I ask all these questions and I may never have that. And I mean, I was announcing it earlier, announced it with Raven before all this, that I'm creating a Substack and I teach comic book investing. And so my product is digital. And so I don't know if I belong at a con per se. And that's may or may not be where my audience is exactly at. So that's why I ask, because I'm very curious about this.
I'll say this. It seems like every con is different. Every con is a lot of cons are run by, different people. I've been at good cons. I've been at bad cons. I've been at, cons where I had a good con, but somebody else had a bad con. And it's just all about the experience and what you do. So the best advice I ever give people is that at the end of the day, when you're going to a convention, you're going to sell, right? Like, I mean, you're going to sell. So you need to work on your merchandising. You need to make sure that, your booth looks good, your table looks good, all these fun things. Like you need to be good to go. And, you need to be there to sell. And if you're an artist and you spend the whole time with your head down and you're drawing the entire show, that's cool if that's what you do. But the person beside you needs to be a seller. You need to have somebody who can get out there and talk. You need to have somebody who's not afraid to shake hands. You need to have somebody, and that doesn't have to be you. If that's not you, that's okay. But just make sure that you bring that person.
You have somebody that with you,
and give them a cut of what you're doing.
Bring Chuck.
Yeah, bring Chuck.
No. Yeah, no. I asked Chuck a legit question.
But
what's up?
How do you feel about Pat Shand?
Actually, I fucking love Pat Shand. He's a good dude. He's actually a really solid dude. I mean, for Raven to make Raven's ego feel better, fuck Pat Shand. But I fucking love Pat Shand. So, yeah.
So you know why I asked that question, right?
Yeah, because I saw you with Raven earlier, and that was what he was right in there right away. Fuck Pat Shand, even though he's made like $75K on motherfucking Kickstarter and shit.
This is the problem with Raven, is that he doesn't understand that Pat's coming on to unbox some Zenescope trading cards, and I'm like, fuck Raven, like he really just like totally like just screwed that up. Like I love Raven though. That's the funniest thing.
Man, we were talking about editors just a minute ago, and then what happened? Did I say your name 3 times? What did
I think you did. You did, man.
This right here is the man that makes me shine, and he is the editor on my new book coming out July 30th, Bushibu Circus Mysteries issue.
Very excited.
Yeah.
I'll be telling people about that when I hit Chicago.
Yeah. Oh.
C2E2, buddy.
I wish I was going with.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited. But yeah, Todd actually was talking like the straight fucking info there about conventions. I can only be on for a couple minutes. I have a client meeting happening very soon. But people out there, when Andrew Davis sends you a fucking invite, you show the fuck up, even if it's only for 5 minutes.
Talking about, right?
I don't do these all that often either.
We wrapped the podcast and immediately jumped on. So
right.
I feel you. I'm in the same boat. Like I got about 11 minutes until I got to hop off, but we're going to get on and talk through some good shit right here. Yeah, I mean, I just think with conventions, you just got to treat them what they are, man. Like at the end of the day, when you go in there, I mean, look, for me, honestly, I will help the people around me set their tables up better. I will talk to them about selling. I will listen to their pitches, and I will pitch their products as well. Because at the end of the day, if you're buying around me, you have a better shot of buying from me. If the people around me are selling, if they have lines, then you have a better chance of stopping and looking at my stuff. And at the end of the day, look, you're there to have fun too. But I mean, let's be very real. There's nothing more fun at a show than selling a ton of stuff and making more money. So at the end of the day, like it's just go out there, have fun with it. but make your money.
Yeah.
50 to 70. Oh, go ahead.
No, go, Paul, go.
50 to 75% of the customers that come up to my table, I will recommend them going to another table, whether it's my neighbor next to me or whether it's another artist that I know of. If I find out and talk to this person and they don't even like my product, but I know that they'll like another product somewhere else, I'll be like, please go over here. He's got exactly what you're looking for.
There you go.
You might not like my stuff, but you'll love his.
I had at MegaCon 2019, I had some steampunk people walk up to my table. And I was like, do you guys like comics? And they're like, no. And I was like, you know what? What if I said that I could find you a comic that I think you guys would dig? And they were like, okay, I'd be interested. And I took their hands and I walked them 3 aisles over to friends of mine, the heirs of Asildur, who make a steampunk comic. And I was like, these are the people. Yeah, Matt Knowles and Steph Cannon. Yeah. And I was like, these guys are the ones who are going to make what you want. But the whole idea of, like, they're great fucking people. I was glad to help them. But you know what? Because at that time, they didn't have, all they had was the steampunk comic. I knew that if someone came and they were like, hey, I need a hell comedy, they'd be like, all right, come with us. Like, you just... You know what I mean? Like you make good friendships and you take care of the people around you, and I knew that would come around, and even if it didn't, I didn't give a shit. It's just like I knew that the sentiment was there, that they would that they cared enough that if it were to come up.
So it's funny you mentioned them because I met them at a show, and it was super briefly. It was a busy show. I didn't really get to talk to them much. It was just very brief talk to them. And they offered to, just kind of let me pick their brain on some Kickstarter stuff. So I met them at a show, and I don't think I even got to reach out for like maybe 5 or 6 weeks. Like it was a while before I reached out. And I reached out, and I'm talking. They responded so quickly. They gave me so much information. They were so helpful. So it's so funny that you bring that up because every experience that I've had, even just interacting with either of them, they have been absolutely amazing. I mean, again, just absolutely great people.
Well, and that's it, right? Like while you're on the road or while you're on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, you find your people. You find those people who they're good motherfuckers, and you're gonna do good by them, and they're gonna do good by you. And like I there's a lot of people who are like, oh, it's like, oh, you did really good by me. What do I owe you? And it's like, no. I'm sure I'll get something back at some point. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where I'm not holding some fucking checklist like I did this for you, you owe me that. It'll come back.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I mean, I have a very good relationship with Zenoscope, and I interview a lot of their artists. I constantly promote them. I constantly say, hey, look, I like what they're doing, and I get taken care of. It is the only thing I can say. And I mean, they just sent me a 1 out of 25 book as a prize. I did not win that prize, but they know who I am, and they better damn sure that they take care of me. That book's a $250 book. Easy, if not more. So, I mean, it's beautifully gold, and it's going to CGC. It's in my personal collection, and I will be taken care of when I need to be taken care of. A bunch of people have been on my show. They know exactly who I am, and they also understand that I do all their artists, and they have never asked me to interview any of their artists. But I do it because it benefits me. And then they're like, yo, you're helping us. And I'll get taken care of. And I don't ask for anything. And I hope, and you took care of me too, Chuck. And so the story, not to embarrass Chuck, is he sent me an extra book on something. And now it's like, cool. And so now Chuck knows I'm going to take care of him. And then
he has.
No, I haven't done it yet. So let's not pretend.
I mean, you got me here.
We're all hanging out, man.
With these wonderful motherfuckers, So I already feel taken care of.
But the idea is that, like, this is what people don't understand is that even on my Kickstarter is that people are like, yo, man, can I get back on your show? And I'm going to give you some more money. I'm like, no, don't worry about it. Where I like to take care of people who have taken care of me. And that's what I think needs to happen. But there are people who think that they have a right to be on my show. And that's the other thing, too, that's very interesting when I'm like, look, how are you helping me? And so that's what I'm figuring out how to decipher. It's very interesting this year. I've gone through that experience. It's complicated.
Well, and you know what? You don't even necessarily have to do anything for me. Because it doesn't necessarily, like Todd was talking about, and I really appreciated that, like helping a bunch of people out. If you see someone like that, you take care of that guy.
Yeah.
Todd and I don't have a relationship. This is literally the first time I think I've ever heard his name or seen him. But he's obviously someone who gives a shit about other people. And so in my books, immediately, I'm like, Todd's a good dude. And if he needed some help, we'd figure something out. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So,
appreciate you.
oh, thank you, brother. Thank you.
So let me ask you a question though. There are different forms of help though. So if Todd says, "Hey, like at some point, Todd, if you need help with all this stuff, figuring stuff out, I mean, we need to have that conversation. I'm more than happy to help you out because you're a nice guy. I know you're gonna pay me back at some point down the road, and if I need something, it's gonna work out. But if somebody's asking me a really complicated question, so I teach comic book investing, and somebody wants like a 9-hour answer, that's a little different too. Where if I say to you, Chuck, how do I set up a artist contract? Or, hey, Chuck, I'm hiring this artist. What's your take on this person? That's a different piece of advice than something like, how do I
think in that situation, right? Though, I think in that situation, you point people towards the resources. So for me, I'm all about just empowering people, right? So when I was mentioning earlier, like, again, I will go and I will set up my booth. And after I'm set up and I'm good to go, I'll start to talk to the people around me. And if I feel like I can, because for a living, I do merchandising and I do sales. So if I can help them make some tweaks and talk to them about their pitches, and if I can be any type of benefit to them as I get to know them, if I feel comfortable that they'll be receptive to what I'm offering, I will attempt to empower them and, maybe help them with their pitch or help them with their merchandise in their booth. I'll tell you by Sunday, depending on how well they're selling, sometimes I'm just like, hey, cool. How much can I sell your stuff for? And I'm literally bundling it with mine if I have to. I don't know what's going on. It's just fun and it's new and it's whatever. And it helps me too, right? Because I'm just like, hey, look, cool. You can get A, B, and C from me, and I'm gonna, we're gonna throw in D from, my buddy next to me, and we're gonna get you, all these good books. But again, it's just everybody's different in terms of it. But I would say when you need that much help, you point them towards the resources and let them go do it themselves, because sometimes people are going to want so much from you. And what it is they really want you to do it for them. And unfortunately, you can do it for them. Again, it's not going to go any further than that. So the best thing you can do is empower them, point them towards the resources, point them towards, the podcasts, the YouTubes, the different channels and different things that can help them grow. And then they can take it and they can run with it. And some of the best advice I ever got was when I first started, and I met an indie comic guy. And it was like the first indie comic guy I met. And, I remember, like, I picked his brain for like 20, 30 minutes at the show. And I mean, like, I'd already bought his books. Like, he easily could have told me to kick rocks, but he was super cool, super helpful, picked his brain. Right. And then, like, every 3 or 4 months, like, I would hit a new roadblock. And he was the only resource I knew at the time. So guess what? I'm on Facebook and I'm messaging him. And luckily, he just, would immediately respond and, again, would give me resources and would say, oh, well, check this out. I hit that too. This is where I went. Not here's what I did, but this is where I went. This is kind of where I found the answer and left the answer for me to go find. So I would suggest in that situation, like, you can share resources, but also at the same time, when you're talking about your investing and what you're trying to do, that's part of you trying to sell your product. So, I mean, at the same time, you don't give your stuff away for free. So your knowledge is also part of your product. So you got to be very careful with it. And I would say there's a lot of things you can do with that. But again, like, point them towards resources, man. But at the same time, your time is one of your resources. So be very careful.
Right to my Substack, guys. They're coming right to my Substack. That is the resource. No question about it.
Well, like, I've had people, they'll hire me as like a proofer. And proofing a comic is very cheap. Because you're just going through and literally I'm just checking for spelling and punctuation, that kind of stuff. That's it. But when I did that, they said, hey, man, if you find any editorial issues along the way, can you let me know? And I was like, look, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And that's a lot more, like, the difference between paying me to edit your book and paying me to proof your book. It's like literally we're talking 5-6 times what you're paying for proofing. So I was like, so here's the deal. I'll proof your book. If I see a couple things that are really big and jump out at me, I'll throw them to you. But if I read it and I go, oh, fuck, this thing needs a lot of work, I'll tell you, you need to pay for an editor. Like, you need to get someone in here and help you out. And he was like, you know what? That's fair.
I think it's one thing that we actually have, like, everybody on who's got a show here. And whenever a lot of people come to you and say, "Hey, I'd like to be on your show tomorrow," well, that's not exactly easy to do.
Happening.
But it's like you point them in the direction of, hey, this is kind of how I did it whenever I first started. This is the way you kind of need to look forward to it. And these are some of the people that you could possibly join in group discussions right away if you want. But also, people have came to me and said, hey, will you show me how to write? Will you project manage one of my projects? And it's like, I don't mind helping. I don't mind telling you where I learned this stuff, because there's a lot of resources I went to.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, as far as me spending, a day, an hour, 2 weeks on stuff, it's like, okay, but this is how much I'm going to charge you if it's going to take this much time, kind of thing.
Bro, you got kids, man. You can't do that. You ain't got that kind of time.
Right.
I mean, I can tell you. I got no problem telling people my rate on one-on-one coaching.
Yeah.
I'm $500 an hour, and it's because if I'm going to build you as my competitor, that's the problem. Once I teach you how to do something, you become my competitor. And here's what's crazy is that in 10 hours, I'll teach you how to become a millionaire in about 10 years. And then I'll teach you how to create an asset class that produces you perpetuity for the rest of your life. Because I'm doing it right now, and it's working. And by the way, I don't do anything fancy, and you will retire with dignity with what I teach. And I deserve to be paid for that. And I don't teach that on Substack either. I teach the fundamentals of comic book investing. I mean, I got no problem telling you my investment strategy. I take a high-risk asset and I deleverage it into a dividend-producing asset. That is not anything new. That is not anything fancy. The question is that how do I find good high-risk producing assets so you can do that strategy? Because what I teach is not the secondary position. It's the first.
That's fair.
And I'm not teaching anything. How I make my money and how I produce a asset that will produce me money for the rest of my life is not anything new. And there are people that can teach you how to do that very easily. And you could learn that from YouTube for free. What I teach is behind my paywall.
Hey, real quick, I just want to say I got to hop off, but it was super nice hanging with all you guys. I got to go get some sleep. This kiddo's going to wake up soon. So thank you so much.
Give me a call when you need help.
Later, right?
Great
meeting.
meeting.
When you need help. That's all I'm going to say.
Appreciate it, Andrew.
I'm here for you, buddy. Thank you.
Take care. Real quick, because I have to do the exact same thing. Oh, he left too. I have to head out too, because my client just called me. But you had said, the difference between you and I is that you said, you're gonna retire with dignity. I'm a comic creator. We don't retire with dignity. That's not how it goes down for us. But I gotta run. Thank you so much for having me on, homie.
Well, I don't know who else is left. I don't think anybody else is going to join us. So I think we should wrap this up. But I'm pretty sure we're going to talk after slightly. But I'm going to let you promote yourself. What do you got for us, Paul, and all that fun stuff?
Again, I'm a brand new writer and creator. 3 books that I put out: PTSD, Bushibu Circus Mysteries, and also Cryptic Haze. I'm also a part of Comic Crusaders, and I'm hosting co-hosting 2 of their shows, Think Indie and Thundercats. And I've got my newest book that is going to be hitting Kickstarter on July 30th, and that's going to be Bushibu Circus Mysteries issue number 2.
Yeah, and I'm going to promote myself real quick. I said I wasn't going to do it too much, but I figured we're at the end. So obviously I got something, I announced it a few times, but I am coming out to Substack and onto Locals, depending on how you politically align. That's up to you. And they're going to be the exact same thing. It's my comic book investment class. It's going to come out every 2 weeks. So a piece of the class is going to be $5 a month to $7 a month. I haven't decided the price yet. And we're going to be teaching. And by the end of the week, it's going to be about 50% done. And on October 5th, the entire class is going to be on Udemy, but it's going to be a lot more money on Udemy. It's going to be about $50. But on the Locals and Substack, you're going to get some bonus content for signing up for a basic community, as well as once this class is done, I'm going to start working on the next one and the next one and the next one. So you're going to get a lot of content first before anybody else can purchase the entire thing. Obviously, I have this show. You could check it out. I got a lot of interviews. I have a big interview that's coming up that we're in the middle of scheduling. It's kind of a big deal. It's Daisy Ducati. And if you don't know who she is, it's super, super exciting for me. She said she's in, so we're going to schedule that bad boy up. And I'm very excited for that. That came in about an hour ago. So super, super stoked for it. And yeah, so check out my show. If you feel inclined, you want to support the show, you could buy me a coffee. If not, that's cool too. And I look forward to you joining my class, everybody. And on that note, we're going to peace out. So everybody have a good night.